for roads has to do with minor road projects typically within a subdivision. So people within the subdivision would come to the city and say, our roads are bad and we want to have you fix them, and we, the property owners, are going to agree to do that. That, in my 30-odd years of experience, has happened very, very rarely, for one thing. But beyond that, it is typically only for people who have property that is on that particular roadway. So if you live on O Street and between 10th and 17th, and all your, or at least the majority of the property owners would on that street say, yes, city, please, pave our road or repave it or do something to it, and we're willing to pay for that, then those kinds of things do happen, but they do not occur, almost never, in a citywide basis, which is what we're talking about here, is trying to deal with streets on a city, streets and other infrastructure on a citywide basis.
Just to follow up on that, we looked at this in great detail, and just to make it a little more clear, this is a 100-year-old built-out city with all kinds of properties, property sizes, corner properties, and land uses mixed up throughout this whole project. To formulate a calculation to come up with the assessment is a mathematical impossibility. You can live on one street and never drive down those streets. That would be part of your assessment. And assessments are very specific. They have to be sort of equal value to all the properties that matches. You can't do that in a built-out city with the types of zoning and the types of lots, intersections. We have collector roads, arterial roads. It's an impossibility. And it would draw lawsuits. It would draw lawsuits. Fire, you can reasonably say that each structure and each person, regardless of the size of their property or their location, benefits equally. I may get out of my car and drive, and I'll say, I don't want to pay for all these other streets that you say I am using. It's just not a direct benefit that you can do with a fire assessment. And it's a totally different thing. We've gone over that with the legal folks, we've gone over that with the financial advisors. We've asked this several times. If the referendum is approved, at what point will there exist a legally binding description of where, when, and how the bond money will be spent? Will it be in the bond prospectus? Won't the city's creditors, that is bond buyers, ask to have such a legally binding description? Yes, I think you covered that. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
That is correct. I received the attached postcard, mail a quote from Public Safety stating, okay, under the plan, property tax rates could rise 35%. It was a mailer that was received. Under the plan, property taxes could rise by 35%, making Lake rate the highest in the county. The millage rates, as reflected, we've been very upfront and clear. At the end of the 5th year, it would be 3.14 mils. That only affects the city's portion of your taxes. When you get your tax bill, remember, you get county, you get school district, you might get Florida Inland Navigation District, you might get all these other taxing entities that are piled on there that combine to make your full millage rate. So, as far as the city's rate, the 3.14% compared against the total cap of 10 mils, which is 8.99 mils, the percentages there are understandable. But when you go against your total tax bill, so you got to make that differentiation. There's a very big difference looking against 25% against, and I think in some cases cities in this area, I think currently we're equal with Atlantis around 20 or 21 mils. They go up to 25 mils. 35% of that would be a lot higher than the 3.14 mils. So I hope that clarifies the difference. And I think that's all the questions that we had. You got some more? Okay, rainfall intensities and amounts are predicted to increase in South Florida. Did the 2020 plan use written design criteria to maximize the infiltration and minimize stormwater runoff? Where can I find these criteria?
Yeah, some examples of just things that we are doing currently as part of the design process is that as part of the drainage, it includes what they call an exfiltration trench. because we have very sandy soil here, and it is able to take a lot of the runoff into those exfiltration trenches and then basically percolate into the ground instead of running to the intercoastal. And so those are things that we're incorporating in the design features of the projects.
Yes, I also wanted to just mention really quickly, after a lot of whining, we've actually got DOT on board as far as providing what are called check valves in a lot of our outfalls, which fall like basically around Lake and Lucerne and the bridge. Basically, when the intercoastal rises, a lot of that water, a lot of the flooding issues we're having is because that water is actually coming back into our system. And currently, there's nothing to stop that water from coming in. These check valves are going to basically allow water to flow out, but not allow it to come back in. So things like that are taking place as well.
Various agencies, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, have published timelines for sea level rise in South Florida. What timeline scenario was used to design the 2020 plan?
Is that what we're using is Palm Beach County and the, as part of, they are a member of the Regional Climate Action Plan, and they worked with the other counties to actually establish a projected sea level rise scenario over the next 50 years. So that will be the scenario that's incorporated in the regional climate action plans as they go forward.
As far as the criteria, that's something we would list and pull together and commit to as the design firms come on. So that's agreed to. So that's something that we would have available for people to see what the design criteria would be. Has Lake signed on to the Regional Climate Action Plan? I don't believe we have yet. That's something that we're getting more active in. Miss Mary, I think that was it. Wow.
I had a question.
Good job. Okay, that is all the questions that were submitted in writing. Would people like to ask questions from the floor?
They're not money.
Well, yeah, from your chair. I'm going to go this way. Mr. McNamara?
I'd like to present my question to the city manager and city officials.
Please, go ahead.
I've been the beneficiary of this educational program from the city using our $50,000, and I found it very informative. However, on multiple mailers I've gotten, I have yet to see one mention of the fact that a bond will last, the payments for the bond will last an additional 30 years after 2019. Everything that I've received from the city talks about a payment for the first 2 years, the payment for the second 2 years, and then the payment for the next 2 years, indicating...
Mr. McNamara, is there a question here, please?
Thank you. There is no indication that there is going to be a continual payment required from all of us for an additional 30 years until 2049.
Thank you. Very clearly, and I apologize if you derived that or didn't get that information. We've been very upfront in saying that each one of these issuances, as we're estimating, would be for a 30-year life maximum. That's set for each issuance. So the first one that runs for the first 2 years starts 30 years. The second one will start 30 years and overlap on the end. And then the last one will be 5 years offset, so that in 2019, it will run 30 years to the end. The other ones will fall off in reverse order, so they overlap. 30 years is what we've projected in the figures we've seen. And as a the other thing is, as we come to the time of actual borrowing, given considerations for rate and the market, we may actually find it advantageous to do 20 years. We don't know. But in the ballot issue, we used the maximum, and it's 30 years for each issuance. So I hope that clears that up.
But none of your literature that you're using our money to
You said
send
it
out
10
to
times.
us has told us that it's going to go for another 30 years. Nothing in print that you have sent to us has said that.
It's been stated many times, and I apologize if that was a mistake on anybody's part. I'm going to clear that up. I know it's been in the newspaper, and it's been talked about openly. It's 30-year bonds for each issue.
Thank you. Mr. Tim?
Yes, you state that the bond is going to be at 5.5%. That sounds very high for a municipal bond. Would that be considered a junk bond status?
And as I think has been indicated a number of different times, Mr. Tim, the 5.5% is an estimate. It is a conservative estimate on which we can put out some information and saying your millage rate might be as much as this. It is our belief, and it is our financial advisor's belief, that the actual interest rate that we get will be less than that. The interest rate we get will be market-driven at the time that we issue the bonds, so it will be a competitive sale. In addition, junk bond status is certainly not what the city of Lake Worth is. Each one of these issues will be rated by the rating agencies, and you will be able to see the rating at that time. I don't have an indication at this point of what that rating will be, but it is certainly the city's financial wherewithal and current financial condition is above junk bond status.
Question, yes ma'am, here.
I never did hear much said about rental properties. I'm operating on a very, very low retirement. I have 2 small houses that I rent. And what can I expect in terms of 10%? I mean, what's my tax going to be? They're high now, very high.
It would be a very specific to your properties that you have, and what I would suggest is if you'll see Pam at this meeting, we'll tell you, based on the calculator, what the numbers would be based on the percentages.
Who sets the, I think you said the county or something, how much the assessed of that 10%? Is it 10% every year?
No, it's up to.
That's what
Up to,
I'm
I
talking about.
apologize. That's the property appraiser, Gary Nicholas. He's the one that goes through the calculations and sets those assessed values.
What does he base it on?
I'm a city manager, I'm not that smart. He has formulas, and it's very, you can imagine in 67 counties throughout Florida, the property appraisers play a very important role. They have formulas that they can explain. We've actually had the property appraiser's office come to the commission and address us and talk about some of our issues and how it affects values. It's very informative, but I don't know the details of how they do their magic. Yeah. But we'd be happy if you want to know your exact amount as projected, we can tell you.
Yes, sir, back there. Please.
Thank you. I was reading through this green piece here that's been provided by the name of Brody, who, if I'm not mistaken, he's married to Laura Starr, and they live in the single most highly appraised home in the city of Lake Worth. So I can understand why he might not be in favor of paying out a few more dollars. But I have never seen such clever misdirection and obfuscation. He states it here very cleverly, and I'd like you to address this, that the city, according to a couple of legal opinions from law professors, the city is not legally bound to use the proceeds as indicated in the Lake Worth 2020 master plan. Well, I say, of course, that's absolutely right. It's only bound by the bond covenants. He goes on to repeat it, that it's not going to be...
Excuse me, can we get to the question,
Yes,
please?
I would like you to comment as to whether or not that is the fact. That it is the bond covenants, that we don't have to worry about anything else other than the bond covenants.
Maybe a legal debate, yeah.
As Steve has indicated, I mean, the bond covenants are legally binding documents. There's bondholders that are going to be spending $63 million, and if you think they're going to sit quietly by and let something happen that's not in the contract, you're crazy. So we'll be very, very tightly protected and follow the plan.
Any questions here in the center row tables? Any questions over here in this side? tables? Okay, I wanted to thank everybody in the room for your generosity. We collected $165 for the clerk. I have one question. If I spell this, would somebody please fix it for me? SVELIVAJ@Palm Beach State something. It's an email address. I can't read the writing. Okay.